In the next 20 or 30 minutes, I'm gonna teach you everything there is to know about moving to South Florida, relocating to South Florida. I'm gonna give you a high-level overview of the entire area, how to get around, and show you some of the areas that our clients are choosing based on lifestyle. So get a pen, get a pad, because by the end of this video, you should have a better idea of exactly what life you wanna live here in South Florida, but more importantly, we're gonna help you rule out those areas that you know you're gonna hate. So I already had the map kind of outline the Miami metro area, so I didn't have to try to draw that on here. But as you can see, this is a fairly large area. If we zoom all the way out, you can see how much land mass this area takes up. Roughly somewhere over 6,000 square miles, but only about 1,200 of it is livable, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is South Florida. This is the Miami metro area. And it basically can be broken down into 3 different sections. And I'm gonna do my best to kind of draw this out for you here. But we have Palm Beach County, which is basically this right here. We have Broward County, which is this right here. And then the rest of it is Miami-Dade County. Now, each of these counties, extremely different, completely different personalities. And the thing that really makes this metro area different than a lot of other ones is that there's 3 major cities here. And as you can see by looking at this map, everything is gonna be north and south based for the most part. So I mentioned that this is a large area. It's over 6,000 square miles, but only about 1,200 is livable. And that's because this area that you basically see here in white is what's livable. And then everything out here is Everglades. So we got almost 3 million people in Miami-Dade County, about 2 million in Broward County, and about 1.5 or so, somewhere just over 1 million in Palm Beach County. I'll put the numbers on the screen. All that combined into this crammed area right here. So let's go ahead and draw out the highways now that you kind of have a little bit of an overview. So the main highway that you're gonna have here, that's gonna basically take you from city to city, north and south, is gonna be I-95, which runs more towards the east side of the metro area and basically ends right past downtown Miami, right past Brickell. Now, I'm sure a lot of you that are watching this from the Northeast are familiar with this highway because it does run up all the way up to Maine, I believe. The next highway is gonna be the Turnpike, which kind of runs in a weird pattern next to 95, then it breaks out for the most part more towards the central or western part of the metro area, and then connects back to 95 here, but then breaks off here and goes all the way down through Homestead. You have I-75, so it's a very small portion of it in Miami, runs north, and then it breaks off and runs all the way across to Naples. This is what's referred to as Alligator Alley out here. Kind of a scary highway if you ask me. I've never been that far on it. I'm sure I will one day. But this highway basically cuts up and goes through Tampa, and I'm pretty sure it runs all the way up to Michigan or something. These are the main highways in the South Florida metro area. Now, as we get into each county, it kind of breaks down a little bit more. There's some smaller highways in Miami that kind of make connectivity a little bit easier. Some in Broward County, and then in Palm Beach County. Basically what you see on the screen is what you're gonna get. And there's one other road, which I don't know if you can see up here, it's US 1. I'm not really gonna be able to draw it, but it runs parallel here to I-95 on the east side. And it runs basically all the way down to the Keys. And I'll explain that when we dive into each area separately. I refer to it as US 1 always because it has different names depending on where you are. So we'll get into that in a minute. Now, to clear this highway map real quick, some important things that I think you should know is that Each area has its own international airports. Each area also has its own cruise ports. So you have Port of Palm Beach right there. You have Fort Lauderdale, Port Everglades right here. And then down in Miami, of course, you have the Port of Miami. So you are covered with that. Quick interruption, we have a free relocation guide that's actually down in the description that's gonna kind of help you make sense of everything that we're speaking about in this video. So make sure you go download that, and while you're at it, hit the subscribe button so we can keep making videos about life here in South Florida, new developments, and everything that you need to know about moving here. Now, since we're down here in Miami, let's start kind of breaking down some of the roads down here in Miami. And if at any point, if this starts to get overwhelming, I know I'm gonna be covering a lot in this video, just pause it, take notes, maybe kind of draw out a map as I go along, whatever you think helps you, but we're giving you the entire overview right now. So we have Miami, the Miami area, and we'll kind of draw out the highways again. So we have 95, which is your main north and south, ends right there. We have the Turnpike, which connects to 95 or breaks off right here, goes all the way down towards Homestead. And here now I'll be able to draw out US 1 since it's a little bit easier since we're zoomed in. So we have US 1, like I said, this runs up the east side all the way up. This is basically the end of Miami right there. US 1 in Miami is called Biscayne Boulevard for the most part. And then as you get down to this area, South Dixie Highway. So this is why I said I'm just gonna refer to it as US 1. But then you have these other smaller highways that just make connectivity around the Miami area so much easier. So for example, you have the Dolphin Expressway, which this is the airport right here. You have the Palmetto Expressway, which is a toll road right there. You have I-75 right here. And then you have this, which is a toll road here. And this is the Airport Expressway here, which connects you to the airport. Then you have these little extensions over here, 195, which takes you across to Miami Beach. 395, which takes you to the cruise port and also to Miami Beach. I know, that looks like a lot, but as you can see, connectivity is a lot easier in Miami. Now, just because it's easier to connect in the Miami area because you have more highway options, that does not mean it's gonna be easier. There's also a lot more people that live in this area, a lot more people that work and commute to this area, and a lot more people that are vacationing in this area. So traffic is pretty much a nightmare, no matter which one of these highways you're on, except maybe the Turnpike. The Turnpike is that one highway that it's just the best. You have to pay to drive on it, but I will gladly pay to drive on the Turnpike because it's smooth, it's flat. Traffic does not tend to exist too much on the Turnpike. Now, moving out of Miami, we're gonna be in the Fort Lauderdale area now, and I'm gonna kind of show you the same thing. So again, we have 95, which runs all the way down. Now we're back in Miami. We have the Turnpike, okay, and then we have this portion of I-75, which runs all the way out west and then curves down. And this is kind of the end of Broward County or the Fort Lauderdale metro area. In addition though, we have 595. So this is Fort Lauderdale International Airport right here. So 595 basically starts at the airport, takes you west through the suburbs, and then connects to either I-75, which this will take you out to Weston, or this right here, which is the Sawgrass Expressway, another toll road, which then turns into an arterial road right here and then connects to the Turnpike and I-95. So connectivity is a little bit less in Broward County than it is in Miami, but as you can see, you do still have interstate that runs east and west, But for the most part, for example, if you're living up here in Coral Springs and you work in downtown Fort Lauderdale and you don't want to take the toll roads to work, I mean, you're commuting through all these arterial roads, and this is where traffic tends to get heavy. Also, you have US 1. Now, like I mentioned, US 1 doesn't really function like a typical highway, even though they call it a highway. It's called Federal Highway in Broward County. It doesn't function exactly like a highway. It functions more like a main road with stoplights. The only part that really does function kind of like a highway is this little tiny stretch right here near the airport and the Port Everglades. But the thing about US 1 is that you'll run into some areas where the speed limit's 55, somewhere it's 45, and somewhere it's 35. So traffic does tend to back up on that road. But overall, connectivity as far as highways go does get a little bit better here. Now we're gonna continue up to Palm Beach County, which ends all the way up here at Jupiter. Again, you have 95. You have the Turnpike. This is where things tend to become an issue with east-west travel, because everything going east and west up here is an arterial road with stoplights. This is basically what you have as far as highways go in Palm Beach County. Now, one thing that I also should mention when it comes to commuting is that we do have the localized trains. We have the Brightline train, and so I'll put on the screen where the Brightline stops are. We also have the Tri-Rail, which is more of the commuter train, which runs parallel to the Brightline. It's not a high-speed train, but it has a lot more stops. But again, as far as that east-west transportation goes, you're either looking at driving or you're looking at taking a bus. Now, this is often where things start to get kind of confusing for people as far as when it comes to choosing an area to live. But like I say in a lot of my videos, you want to pick an area based on your big anchor, or what is it that's drawing you into a specific area. And there's really 3 common ones that we're going to cover in here, and maybe it'll help you also learn some areas that you want to stay away from. But there's really 3 common ones, and then maybe a 4th one that I'll throw in there also that I think is important. And the first one, and we've been hearing a lot of this lately, is people want that beach town feel. So when a lot of people say they want to live near the beach or on the beach, especially in the Miami area, they're typically going to Miami Beach. But Miami Beach has some neighborhoods and some areas that are more ideal than others, because if you don't know South Beach, Miami Beach, it's a tourist trap. And a lot of our clients that are reaching out looking for that beach access or that beach style living, they're looking for something walkable. They're looking for something lively, but not chaotic or hectic. Also not necessarily the high rise lifestyle, but I'm gonna show you here in Miami Beach an area that we've been recommending to a lot of people typically is this area down here, which is known as south of 5th. And so it's basically this area here. And this area is really nice. It's a little upscale, it's boutique in some areas. There are some high rises, and it is still a busy area, but it's definitely away from a lot of the madness of South Beach, where you see this park right here, all this and Ocean Drive. This is basically the tourist trap. Basically, this area of Miami Beach is really what's gonna be the most busiest, generally speaking. And then this area right here, that's kind of where you have like all the Art Deco buildings, and that's South Beach. And then also a little bit further north, the mid-beach area, a little bit calmer also. And then just the further north you go, this North Beach area. These are typically gonna be your calmer areas of Miami Beach. And so in Fort Lauderdale on the beach, you have Central Beach, which is gonna be this area down here. This is where pretty much all your hotels are. This is where spring break happens, this area. But we like to recommend this area based on what a lot of people want, which I mentioned is walkability, lively, but not over the top hectic. So we have Lauderdale Beach, which is actually one of the few areas in South Florida where you'll find single family homes on the ocean. So this whole neighborhood right here, these are single family homes right on the sand. Now the area that we've been recommending the most though is Lauderdale by the Sea. And because it kind of just has basically everything that everybody wants in a beach town. It's very small, it's just over a square mile. It's very lively, but it's not chaotic. And it kind of has that small town charm, if you will, where you're not gonna find any high-rise condos. You may more towards the north end, but the town actually passed a law where condos cannot be built over 4 stories, basically to preserve the small town feel and also protect the views of the ocean. One more that's more recently we've been recommending, and this area is kind of a hidden gem, but it's this Singer Island area right up here. It's technically part of Riviera Beach. You might see the address sometimes, but it's this area here. It's just north of Palm Beach, the island, and then you have the inlet right here. And you're gonna find some high rises, some boutiques up there, boutique buildings, smaller buildings, and it's just a completely different lifestyle. This is more calm, laid back. As far as like nightlife scene or dining scene, I mean, you'd have to go down into like Palm Beach or West Palm Beach for that. So the next thing that a lot of people ask for are areas that are good for families and have good public schools, or even sometimes private schools. And one thing that you should know is that, especially if you're coming from a place like Connecticut or New Jersey, where the schools are rated very highly and they get a lot of funding, it's just not like that down here. And it's not to say that the schools are bad, they just don't get the same type of funding that they do in the Northeast. And you don't typically see as high of ratings throughout the area like you would up there. But I can give you a general framework as far as looking for these areas to where to find those schools. And that's gonna basically be anything west of the Turnpike, for the most part. And that's not to say that there aren't pockets of areas in the cities where there are good schools, there definitely is. But for the lifestyle that a lot of you guys that ask for this are looking for, it's mostly gonna be out west. So a couple of the really popular areas that people look into is Parkland up here. A lot of high rated schools in Parkland. Weston down here, same thing goes. Miramar and Pembroke Pines, basically this whole area out here. Then even in areas like Southwest Ranches, Cooper City, Davie, areas like West Boca, even parts of Central Boca, West Lake Worth, West Boynton, Wellington, and they're more suburban, more master plan communities with amenities. That's typically where a lot of our clients that are looking for that lifestyle choose to live. Now, the next thing that we have a lot of people looking for is gonna be the more modern, urbanized areas, walkable downtowns, whether it's the downtown Miami area or Brickell, which is just south of downtown. I mean, that's, if you basically wanna live in a Manhattan, that's where you're gonna wanna go. But even areas a little bit further north, a little bit more up and coming, Edgewater, Midtown, a little bit north of downtown, a little bit more calmer than Brickell, but still high rises, walkable. Then of course we have downtown Fort Lauderdale, and it kind of has the best of everything, and I'll explain why. Because you have downtown Fort Lauderdale, which is walkable. You have Las Olas Boulevard right here. But then you have all these neighborhoods around here that have single family homes like Victoria Park, Rio Vista, the Las Olas Isles. And I mean, your definition of walkable may be different than mine, but this is all walkable. You have US 1 that shoots straight down the middle. But this general area right here, and even Flagler Village right here, is where you're gonna find your condo living. Even a neighborhood like Sailboat Bend, right here, single family homes, still very walkable to downtown. Tarpon River, same thing. And in Miami, it's a little bit more difficult to do that unless you go to, parts of Coral Gables or Coconut Grove, which aren't walkable to Brickell or downtown Miami, but they're walkable to their own area. And then also, of course, the other one, I mean, Boca, I wasn't gonna include Boca, but you do have the downtown area or Meisner Park, which is this little area right here, technically downtown Boca, very walkable. There's some single family neighborhoods around there. A little bit more upscale though. Typically when people are asking for modernized or urban, not really looking at Boca, but it is an option. Same goes for Del Rey. I mean, more of like a small scale walkable area, but downtown West Palm Beach. And there's a lot going on in West Palm Beach right now, a lot of new buildings popping up. So this area, very walkable. I mean, I remember West Palm Beach back when I used to visit down here when I was a kid, and I just don't remember anything too exciting about it. Even when I first moved down here back in 2019, West Palm Beach wasn't that exciting, but now they kind of got a lot going on. And then the next thing that people are looking for is commuting-based living. So anywhere that the Bright Line is, which I had already mentioned, is West Palm Beach, Boca, downtown Fort Lauderdale, Aventura, which is right here, which is kind of like, that's kind of a hectic area. We don't have too many people who choose to live in that area based on their experience of visiting there. Now, it's a beautiful town. It's got one of the biggest malls in the state, the Aventura Mall. It has the Bright Line station there, but the traffic there is completely insane because, like I said, it's kind of bridging Fort Lauderdale and Miami. Ives Dairy Road on I-95. If you know, you know. If you don't, but you're interested, you'll find out eventually. But then the other one is gonna be the downtown Miami area. Obviously, if you're living there, you probably also work in that area. I don't know many people who would live in downtown Miami but work in like West Palm Beach or something. Most people who wanna live down there, it's because they work down there. But there is the Bright Line station downtown. And you know, we have these areas down here like Pinecrest and Coral Gables and Coconut Grove, and a lot of people are interested in these areas. And we actually just spoke to somebody who a job transfer is taking them down to Coconut Grove, and so they were looking in that general area of Coral Gables. They want something walkable, but they also really like Fort Lauderdale. Now the problem is that, yeah, you can take the Bright Line from Fort Lauderdale to downtown Miami, but then once you get there, I mean, you're kind of stuck because there's no, aside from busing or driving, which if you're taking the Bright Line, you're obviously not gonna be driving. But aside from that, there's no more Bright Line stations. And so hopefully in the future, we start to see more of those pop up. I know they have a plan to build more of a commuter rail along the Bright Line station that will hopefully connect some more of these areas. You know, if you're working in Brickell, but you really love Wellington, I mean, you're over 70 miles away, I promise you we can find a similar lifestyle to Wellington that is much closer to Miami, because you will be sitting in traffic for probably 3 hours each way. And maybe not, but the reason I say that is because there's been times where I've driven from Fort Lauderdale to Miami in rush hour and it's taken me 2 hours, and that's only 25, 30 miles. So you add another 50 miles on top of that, you never know. Now, the last thing that I wanted to mention is waterfront living. And that's basically because that's a very general thing to say. People say, I want to live on the water. I mean, if you look at this map, you can see that there's actually tons of areas to live on the water. I mean, if you look at Weston, there's a ton of lakes there. There's a ton of lakes here. I mean, you have all these canal systems throughout Fort Lauderdale. But waterfront living can mean a lot of different things. Are you wanting to live on the water just because you want to wake up to a nice view and, you know, sit on your deck and just see a lake or see a canal? Or do you have a 40-foot boat? Or do you plan on getting a 40-foot boat that you need to dock and you want to take out to the ocean? Typically, when you're looking for something that you need to dock a boat and take it out to the ocean, we're always going to be recommending something east of US 1, because this is the highest chance of where you're going to find a home with that amount of water frontage and no fixed bridges. Now there are some fixed bridges east of US 1 and certain areas like this little fixed bridge right here. But for the most part, that's where if you wanted a boat, no matter where you go, whether you're coming up north in Palm Beach County or in Miami, typically you're gonna wanna be looking east of US 1 if you're looking for dock space, unless you decide to dock at a marina because you happen to find a home that you fell in love with somewhere else. You can always dock it at a marina. If you're just looking to wake up to water views, you can still be east of US 1, or you can really be anywhere. You can be in the suburbs and live on a lake. You can still be in East Fort Lauderdale and live on a canal somewhere west of US 1 and still have a small boat. But just wanted to throw that out there, that a lot of people ask us about waterfront properties, and it goes so much deeper than just living on the water. Another thing is new construction. We don't typically get a lot of people looking for new construction out here because we don't typically have a lot of land to build it. But this area up here, this Westlake area, there's a lot of new construction going on up in this area. You're also gonna find that the further west you go, because these are the areas that are less built out. So that's also just something to keep in mind, is new construction. Unless you want a custom build home, you're most likely gonna be out further west. Okay, I know that was a lot. You could put the pen and pad down now, but this is what we do. We wanna give you a high level overview of how this entire metro area works, so that when the time comes, you could reach out to us and let us help you narrow it down even more. So if you're thinking about buying or selling anywhere in South Florida, my team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. Make sure to reach out to us at therealsouthflorida.com/YouTube. Also make sure to download our free relocation guide. It'll help you kind of put together everything we just talked about today and make more sense of it. In the meantime, I appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.